So let me ask you something. What is a comfort movie? Well, according to Urban Dictionary, a comfort movie is a movie that one watches to feel less shit, and a movie that evokes many positive/lovely feelings in that one person. Now, I think we all have that one movie that we find ourselves watching whenever we are feeling down or upset. Some people might find themselves watching a Disney film, a Pixar film, a DreamWorks film, or even a shitty Adam Sandler movie, cause why not? Now, there are many movies that I personally consider to be the best out there. For example, Tick Tick Boom is one of my all-time favorite movies, but would I call it a comfort movie? No, not really. Like, I do genuinely love the movie, but it's not really a movie I would watch when I'm feeling upset. If I had to pick one movie that I personally consider to be a comfort movie, I would most likely pick The Young Offenders. If you're an OG subscriber to the channel, then you'd know that I made a video on The Young Offenders about a year ago. A year ago? What the fuck, that is so long ago. But basically, I love this movie. It was one of my favorite movies to watch when I was a dumb and naive teenager, and it's also one of my favorite Irish movies. And yes, I am Irish. I'm not American like some of you may think. I was born in this shithole known as Dublin, and I've been stuck here my entire life. But in all seriousness, I genuinely love this movie. Even if it isn't my all-time favorite movie, it still holds a very special place in my heart. So when I heard the news back in 2017 that the film would be adapted into a series by the RTE and BBC, 14-year-old me was ecstatic to say the least. The movie was amazing on its own, and I personally thought that the film would translate very well into a series. It could be like Hardy Bucks, but set in Cork. So when the first episode premiered on a late Thursday night in 2018, I sat down, turned on the TV, and watched the new series with so much excitement. And what did I think of it?
What the hell was that?
Yeah, I didn't really know if I liked it at the time. On one hand, it still has the same likable characters and the same jokes, but something felt off about the series. And as more episodes came out, I sort of gaslit myself into liking the series, since at the time, it felt like everyone in the country adored this series, but something about this series just didn't really interest me, to be honest. Now, it's been over 5 years since the series first debuted, and after I binged the entire series within a weekend, I kind of came to the conclusion that I don't really like this series. In fact, I kind of hate it, to be honest. While I wouldn't say the show is terrible or awful by any means, it still isn't good and has some glaring issues that I just can't ignore. So join me as I undoubtedly piss off the entire nation of Ireland and explain why the Young Offenders series is really bad. Now, the series follows the same basic structure as the film, where two best friends named Connor and Jack get into some wacky hijinks while living in Cork. But unlike the film, where it's somewhat of an adventure movie, this series is mainly focused on Connor and Jack living their lives as small-time criminals. Now, you'd probably assume that this series takes place right after the events of the film, right? Well, no. Instead, it takes place in this alternate timeline where the events of the film never happened. This really confused me when I first watched the series, since I assumed that it was going to be a continuation of the film, but for some reason it has nothing to do with the film, despite all the characters from the film being present in the series. I can't believe that there are two different timelines for the Young Offenders. Are there more timelines? It's best we don't think about it too much. Now, I do think that the series has a pretty good setup when it comes to introducing us to the world and characters. We get shown the main characters and what their lives are like, and it's done in a really fun and clever way. But after the first 10 minutes, things slowly start to go downhill. Instead of feeling like a show that has genuine care put into it, it kind of feels like this generic and bland show that is mainly being produced by some out-of-touch executives. I think the best place to start off my criticism would probably be the humor. Now, Irish comedy is very different when compared to comedy in somewhere like America, since we tend to be a lot more dark and risky. A good example would have to be Father Ted, since that show has a lot of jokes that people outside of Ireland would not really understand. Same could be said with the Young Offenders movie, as many Americans might not understand why some lad getting killed by a hammer is the funniest thing ever. Or maybe I'm just insane, I don't know. But the humor in this series feels somewhat tame. There's elements of dark humor sprinkled in here and there, but they mainly focus on a lot of cringe humor, which isn't necessarily bad per se, but the way they use cringe humor comes off as super desperate. They will try to drag out jokes for as long as they can, and try desperately to get one single laugh out of the viewers. But like I said, this just comes off as extremely desperate. Some moments I can think of are when Connor and Jack strip down naked in front of their principal in order to get expelled, and on paper that should be hilarious. But they drag on the joke for so long to the point where I'm just waiting for the scene to be over. Or when Connor, Jock, and their girlfriends, who I will talk about later on, are in a forest hiding from some insane fella, and one of the girls keeps farting, and the writers must have thought this joke was hilarious, since they keep on repeating it over and over again. Like, fart jokes aren't funny, right? We should all know this by now. There are more examples that I just do not have the energy to go over, but there are so many unfunny moments like this where I just get fed up and want them to shut up. Shut up! Another element that was added to the series was new characters. Now, when adapting a movie into a show, it's inevitable that new characters will be added. Sometimes this can be a good thing, and sometimes this can be a bad thing. And with this series, the new characters they added is what really ruins the show for me, to be honest. Of course, we have the original characters like Connor, Jock, Connor's mom, Sergeant Tony Healy, and Billy Murphy, who is actually my favorite part of the series. They expand on his character in a way that makes the audience kind of sympathize with him. He's not just some insane character with no personality. He is still insane here, but he's more developed. We get to see a softer and somewhat nicer side to him, and we even get to see why he is the way he is. Plus, he's genuinely the funniest part of the show, and got many laughs from me. Too bad the rest of the characters aren't any good. For some reason, Connor and Jack have been severely dumbed down in this series. Not dumbed down to the point where it's funny, such as Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but it's more annoying and a massive letdown from what their characters were like in the film. The other returning characters like Mairead and Sergeant Heaney are basically the same, except they try to force a romance with the two of them, which kind of starts off decent, but it completely derails and just becomes really pointless. So there's that. Then there are the new characters, Siobhan and Linda. I do not like these characters, like, at all. They were first brought into the series to act as love interests for the main lads, and I'm sorry, but I really don't like these characters. I have absolutely nothing against their actresses, and they are clearly very talented, but God almighty, why were they added here? It feels like they were only included because the network wanted to give Connor and Jack love interests, but they barely add anything to the series, and I just couldn't stand them. The relationship between them and the two lads feels so forced and awkward. Like, there's a moment in season 2 when Connor and Linda break up, and for the next few episodes, we're made to believe that they are never getting back together again. But like, we know that they'll get back together, because the only reason they were added here was to be Connor and Jack's love interests. So without that, they are just pointless characters that have no real effect on the story. And of course, Connor and Linda get back together by the end of season 2. What did you think was gonna happen? I guess the biggest impact they bring to the series is when Siobhan gets pregnant at the end of season 1, and for some reason, Jock isn't upset that he got his girlfriend pregnant at 15.
Fuck you.
And of course they have the baby, and we get to see some hilarious baby hijinks. I'm sorry, but I always hated the trope where shows add a baby character to the main cast of characters, since it just reeks of the writers running out of ideas. But this was done in the first season, and it's not like the show was bad without these new characters. As a matter of fact, some of my favorite moments from the show was when it was just Connor and Jack on screen. They still have really good chemistry, and I enjoyed watching them. Episodes like the fish episode, or where they steal a bunch of TVs, were genuinely some of my favorite moments, because it actually focused on the two main lads being small-time criminals. That's when the series really shines for me, and it shows that these new characters are just completely pointless. There's also this principal character who is also the father to Siobhan and Linda. That's pretty cool, right? On another note, they try to balance lots of serious and dramatic moments here, which I don't really mind, to be honest. The movie did a great job on balancing comedy and drama. But the show does a really bad job on balancing comedy and drama. Every dramatic moment here feels incredibly forced and generic. It kind of feels like the writers don't know how to segue from a funny moment into a serious moment. A great example is in the Christmas special, where everyone is fighting and it's all chaos. And then it starts to fake snow, and suddenly everyone stops fighting and it's all resolved. And it's taken as a genuinely serious and heartfelt moment. But like, it really isn't. It just feels really stupid. There are other moments like Connor and Linda breaking up that I brought up earlier, or when Jock's old best friend returns and causes a split in Connor and Jock's friendship, and it's gotta be the most generic, bland, and overplayed trope I have ever seen on TV. We know that Connor and Jock will remain friends, and we know that nothing will come of this character. So why are we expected to care about this stupid fucking trope? I'm getting way too angry over this, man. I think the only dramatic moment that I liked was in the 3rd episode of season 1, where Mairead finds out that Jock's being abused by his father, and she decides to step in and take him away. It's a really touching moment that actually has an impact on the rest of the series, so it's not a completely pointless moment. It actually affects the story. But sadly, this is the only dramatic moment that actually left an impact on me, while the other dramatic moments just really pissed me off. Man, I've been ranting about this series way too much. Maybe I should get another Irish person on here to talk about this series. Hey Andrew, what do you think of this series?
There is no portrayal of Irish adolescents more accurate than Young Offenders. The reputation of Irish people is so outdated, and by that I mean leprechauns, drinking, you know, in modern day Ireland, modern day Cork, teenage pregnancy, hooliganism, guards. Americans don't know what that is, but Connor and Jock are written like actual people. I'm not from Cork, but their Jew is an archetype that is in this country. The movie has this character called Billy Murphy, who is your local freak, and they take his character and feature him more and more in the show, which makes every episode with him funny. But at the end of the day, this show is okay. Probably the worst opinion for a YouTube video. Zach, finish it.
Thanks Andrew for your incredible input on this series. In conclusion, while this series has a lot of fans that really enjoy it, I am not one of those fans unfortunately. While the show does have some good moments, it doesn't make up for the bad comedy, bland writing, and annoying characters. If you enjoy this series, then that's perfectly fine. I'm glad you can enjoy something that I don't really understand. The show seems to have ended after its 3rd season, which I think is for the best honestly. It felt like they were just ruining what made the original film so amazing in the first place. And I can't really imagine a 4th season would be any good. Hey, editing Zach here, and I literally just got the news that they're being renewed for a 4th season. Like, I literally just heard about this like a minute ago. They're filming soon and it's official. They're going with a season 4 and that's great. That's wonderful. I'm so happy that the cast and crew are getting more work. Apparently they're doing a casting call for new characters, which is great, you know. More characters, sure, why not? We already had enough characters, why not add more? More characters the better, you know. Why not? More characters. Yeah, let's go. More characters, more episodes. I can't fucking wait for this, man. I can't wait. Yes! Anyway, I'm gonna wrap things up now since I am pretty sure I pissed off the entire nation of Ireland, so I'm gonna go into hiding for the next few months. I'll see you later, lads. Goodbye.